On the morning of December 1, 1948, a well-dressed man was found dead on an Australian beach, and more than 70 years later, we still cannot fully explain who he was or how he died. He carried no wallet, no identification, and every label had been cut from his clothing. In his pocket was a scrap of paper bearing 2 words in an ancient language. This is the story of the Somerton Man, one of the most baffling cold cases in history. The setting was Somerton Park, a quiet seaside suburb of Adelaide. The evening before, several people noticed a man reclining against the seawall, his legs crossed, apparently asleep. One couple watched him for a while and thought they saw him move an arm. By dawn, he had not moved at all. When police arrived, they found a man in his 40s, immaculately dressed in a suit and polished shoes, lying peacefully as if he had simply drifted off. There was no sign of a struggle, no wound, and no obvious cause of death. His pockets held a train ticket, a bus ticket, a comb, a pack of chewing gum, and a half-smoked cigarette. But there was no wallet, no money, no name. Stranger still, every clothing label had been carefully removed. Someone had gone to great lengths to erase this man's identity, and detectives realized almost immediately that they were dealing with something far from ordinary. The autopsy deepened the mystery. His organs showed signs consistent with poisoning: a congested liver, an enlarged spleen, and blood in his stomach. Yet every toxicology test came back clean. The pathologist was convinced the man had been poisoned, perhaps by a rare compound that breaks down and leaves no trace. But he could not prove it. Officially, the cause of death remains unknown to this day, listed as unexplained despite decades of scientific advances. Months passed with no identification. Then police discovered a brown suitcase left at the Adelaide railway station, believed to belong to the dead man. Inside were neatly folded clothes, and once again, the name tags had been removed. But whoever cleaned the case had missed a few. 3 items bore the name Keen or Keen. Investigators chased the lead across the country, only to conclude that no missing person by that name existed. Another dead end. The breakthrough, if it can be called that, came from a tiny rolled-up scrap of paper hidden in a secret fob pocket sewn into his trousers. Printed on it were 2 words, Tamam Shud. Scholars identified the phrase as Persian, meaning it is ended, or finished. It was the final line of a famous book of poetry, the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam, a collection of verses about living fully because life is fleeting and death is final. Police launched a public appeal, and a man came forward with an extraordinary find. Months earlier, he had discovered a rare copy of the Rubaiyat tossed into the back seat of his unlocked car, parked near Somerton Beach around the time of the death. The book was missing the exact words Tamam Shud from its final page. The scrap in the dead man's pocket had been torn from this very copy. But the book held more secrets. Faintly penciled inside the back cover was a jumble of capital letters, 5 lines of seemingly random text, 1 crossed out. To this day, cryptographers, intelligence agencies, and amateur codebreakers have failed to crack it. Some believe it is an encrypted message, others think it may be the meaningless scrawl of a troubled mind, or the first letters of a poem or prayer. Whatever it was, it has resisted every attempt at decryption for over 70 years. Also written in the book was a telephone number. It led to a young nurse who lived just a few hundred meters from where the body was found. When shown a plaster cast of the dead man's face, she appeared deeply shaken, nearly fainting, yet she insisted she did not recognize him. She refused to explain her reaction and took whatever she knew to her grave. Her strange response only fueled decades of speculation about who this man really was. Because the death occurred at the dawn of the Cold War, theories exploded. Adelaide was near a secret weapons testing range, and some believed the Somerton Man was a spy, silenced with an untraceable poison. The removed labels, the coded message, the mysterious woman, it all seemed to fit the world of espionage. Others suspected a spurned lover, a heartbroken traveler, or a man who simply wished to vanish. None of it could ever be proven. For decades the man lay in an unmarked grave, until researchers exhumed his remains and turned to modern DNA. In 2022, one determined professor announced a name, Carl Charles Webb, an electrical engineer and instrument maker born in Melbourne. He had no death record and seemed to disappear from history. Yet even this identification remains debated, unconfirmed by authorities, and it answers almost nothing about why he died alone on that beach. Who removed his labels? What did the code mean? Why did the nurse react as she did, and how did a healthy man simply stop living? Even with a possible name, the Somerton Man remains an enigma, a person who arrived from nowhere, died without a word, and left behind a puzzle that has outlived everyone who knew him. Some mysteries, it seems, truly are ended, yet never solved.